Week 2 of Oregon baseball brought the bats, the gloves, and the rain. In the second series of the season, the Ducks faced the Rhode Island Rams, so let's talk about what happened for this week in Oregon baseball. Now, I'm not going to lie, the series started off a little rough with the Ducks having a 12-11 loss in the first game of the series. After being down 12-4, the Ducks didn't bring their comeback until the last 2 innings, just falling short. Things picked up a little bit in the first game of the doubleheader with a completely scoreless game until the 11th inning. Let me say that again, 11th inning. There wasn't even a spot on the scoreboard for the 11th inning. But then it wasn't until there was an overthrow to first base from Rhode Island that brought in the runner to score for the Ducks. This brought in the momentum for the Ducks to win the next 2 games of the series. In the second game of the doubleheader, the Ducks took the win 19-12, which is a major difference from the previous game. Then on Sunday, the Ducks pulled out a 15-2 win by a mercy rule, and even with the almost 3-hour rain delay during the game, they still pulled out a mercy rule win. I also can't talk about the game without talking about Berkeley Mabius, who hit his very first career home run, and not only did it get way out of PK Park, but it was a grand slam, and that was good enough to make him Big Ten Freshman of the Week. So the Ducks take the series 3-4, which brings us to our highlight players of the week. Up first, we have our moments on the mound featuring Colin Clark, Cole Stokes, and Michael Mechna. Opening up the first game of the doubleheader, we have Colin Clark, a sophomore from Irvine, California. The right-handed pitcher threw 7 innings, and in these 7 innings, Clark only gave up 4 hits, but no runs and no errors. Clark also added 5 strikeouts in this game. And in a scoreless game, pitching helped keep the Rams from reaching home. Later was Cole Stokes throwing quite a game on the mound. This sophomore, also from Southern California, threw a short but very sweet 2 innings where he didn't have any hits or runs or errors. Stokes also added 4 strikeouts to his stats for this weekend. Then to wrap up our moments on the mound, Michael Mechna made his very first appearance on a college mound. In the 3 innings he pitched, the freshman only gave up 2 hits, but then he also balanced that out with 2 strikeouts. And he got the win for the last game of the series. Not a bad start to his collegiate career. Now moving on to our Ducks on defense this week, had some beautiful plays on the field, but if I had to pick, I would have to go with the work of Jacob Walsh, Mason Neville, and Anson Arrows. Kicking it off with Jacob Walsh, the senior first baseman had a great weekend all around on the field and on the plate, but we'll more to that later. In this 4-game series, Jacob Walsh had 35 putouts. 35! And in addition to his individual outs, Walsh also added 5 assists with all of his work on defense. Walsh had this to say about his defensive performance on the field.
A lot of pride in my defense. That's one thing we work on every single day with Hank. And, it's just that we do it every day, so it's good when it shows up on the field.
Our next up on defense is Anson Arrows, who was both behind the dish at catcher and in the outfield this weekend, and still managed to look absolutely dominant doing both positions. Arrows had 16 putouts and 1 assist, and in these outs was keeping runners from scoring, and had the most beautiful catch in the outfield and probably the most highlighted play of this season. Last for our Ducks on defense is Mason Neville, the junior center fielder from Las Vegas, who was just a vacuum in the outfield this weekend. Neville had 12 putouts over the weekend and had an arm that kept runners from getting those extra bases. Last but not least is our Ducks at the dish, which after the weekend the Ducks had was a very competitive category, but at the end of the day, there can only be 3. And those 3 are Jacob Walsh, Mason Neville, and Anson Arrows, coincidentally the same people picked for the Ducks on defense. Jacob Walsh had a great weekend at the dish. In his 17 at-bats, Walsh had 6 runs and 6 hits, including 4 doubles and a broken record. Walsh now has 38 multi-RBI games, setting the new program record. Pop off Jacob Walsh. Now up next is Mason Neville, and when he just wasn't getting walked this weekend, he was making the most of his at-bats. In his 16 at-bats, the junior had 9 runs and 5 hits, including back-to-back home runs in the doubleheader. Pop off Mason Neville. Last but not least, we have the hero of Game 4, Anson Arrows, hitting the Mercy Rule Grand Slam. In addition to this, Arrows added 7 runs and 3 hits. Pop off Anson Arrows! And here's that grand slam, making that final score 15-2 at the end of Game 4, and the Ducks take the series. The team was definitely excited about this one, all gathered at the plate to celebrate the win of the series. Well, that wraps up week 2 of This Week in Oregon Baseball. Come back next week where we'll be talking about Oregon's next 4-game series of the weekend against Columbia. I'm your host, Ashley Davidson. We'll see you next time.